Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We love having you here, and it's our mission to bring you all the latest and greatest tips, skills, and know-how to make you the best that you can be. We know that you have it in you, and we're going to show you how. Now, let's get started.
Welcome to the Para Fair today. And today's story is entitled 5 More Minutes. 5 more minutes? What are you talking about, 5 more minutes? Well, let's listen to our story, talk about it, come back, talk about some things that are important in the story, and very interesting concept. All right?
While at the park one day, a woman sat down next to a man on a bench near a playground. "That's my son over there," she said, pointing to a little boy in a red sweater who was gliding down the slide. "He's a fine-looking boy," the man said. "That's my daughter on the bike in the white dress." Then, looking at his watch, he called to his daughter. "What do you say we go, Melissa?" Melissa pleaded. "Just 5 more minutes, Dad. Please. Just 5 more minutes." The man nodded and Melissa continued to ride her bike to her heart's content. Minutes passed and the father stood and called again to his daughter. "Time to go now?" Again Melissa pleaded. "5 more minutes, Dad. Just 5 more minutes." The man smiled and said, "Okay. My, you certainly are a patient father," the woman responded. The man smiled and then said, "Her older brother Tommy was killed by a drunk driver last year while he was riding his bike near here. I never spent much time with Tommy and now I give anything for just 5 more minutes with him. I vowed not to make the same mistake with Melissa. She thinks she has 5 more minutes to ride her bike. The truth is, I get 5 more minutes to watch her play." Moral: life is all about making priorities, and family is one and only priority on top of all other, so spend all time you can with loved ones.
Welcome back from our story. Hopefully, as always, I enjoy these stories and as I get so much more out of them and it makes my life a little bit easier. As I broke this story down and I looked at some things that I was like, wow, that really makes more sense. And then I look back at the moral. Let's look back at the moral of the story. Life is all about making priorities, and family is always one and the only priority on top of all others. So spend as much time as you can with loved ones. And I know some of us are struggle with this because our priorities are different. Our priorities are a little bit different from everyone. Has a little bit different things going on in their life. Everyone has certain things that they can't control. Be honest with you, bills, like I tell myself, I went out there and I created these bills, and I got to make sure that I pay the bills. I got to keep the roof over their head with the family, and so sometimes our priorities they get kind of jaded, they get kind of mixed up, they get kind of all over the place. But as I look at my life and I look at some things, and things I got to get done today, and the priorities that I got to get done, things I got to get done now, later. And so what I do is for myself is I try to put my priorities with my family. Is there's going to be some things that we can immediately do right now, some things that we can do. It's going to take a little bit of time. Some things are going to take a little bit longer to do. And it's just going to take a lot more patience to do with my family. But I got to understand that at your top of your list should be your family. Your family should be your priority number one. But I understand that some people, it's just, we take things for granted. We take people for granted. We take time for granted. We take a lot of things for granted that really are out of our control. We take things that really, for most parts, just as we take some of our family members, we don't understand what they're going through. And sometimes we do understand what we're going through, but we don't think that they're valuable. A lot of times we don't value our family members as we should. We look at them as just a burden. I know this one person, and they're just the nicest person whatsoever. And we just sit around and we talk, and they're just really gracious with their time. And then we went over and we talk, I was asking them about their family, and they go, "I don't spend time with my family. They're not worth it." I go, "What do you mean you don't spend time with your family?" And they go, and I realized there's some bitterness or something going on with that person in their family. There's something going on that I don't know, but their priority it's about building relationships with other people, not building relationships with their family. And as I watch and I see some people, and as I watch myself and I watch other people who are trying to build relationships and trying to build relations with their family members, some things happen in people's lives, and I don't know what happened, but some things happen where you can't repair a lot of relationships. And sometimes as I look back and I reflect on some of the things that I'm going through and some things that my family members are going through, just recently as we're going through all this stuff, just recently we celebrated my mother's birthday, and it was just nice. Everyone got onto the Zoom call, and relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins were all on the Zoom call wishing her happy birthday. And it was nice. It was nice to see their faces. We didn't really get to talk, as much as we wanted to, but it was just nice to know that they're there and that they care. They just care about, not just themselves but other people around them. And sometimes we take our family members for granted. I know I have family members that live like maybe 3-4 miles down this road from me. They don't live far, but I don't get a chance to get to see them. So yesterday on the Zoom call, I actually got a chance to get to see them, and because not making excuses or whatever, we get caught up in life. We get caught up in trying to pay the light bill, pay the mortgage, and just get things done. One of the things our family used to do a lot is, my grandfather was alive. We used to have these picnics. We used to have these picnics, and as kids, we used to dread having these picnics because we were just out there all day. We were like the first ones to get there early in the morning, setting up everything, and the last ones to leave. But we didn't understand the value of being around our uh, our family members. We didn't understand that. All we saw with them was arguing and hanging out. But that's what they wanted to do. That's what my dad's family wanted to do, is just hang out and just have a day where it's all about having all the kids together, having all the grandparents together. But we didn't understand that concept as kids. Now we're struggling to get everyone to come out for a picnic or come out and do something together. But everyone's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I can't come on that day. I can't do this. And um, we have to understand that we have to make time. Time is moving along. And as I look back at this story and how 1 minute you're here, 1 minute you're not here, and how many things are going on, with so many things are going on with life. And we got to sit down, and I got to sit down myself. I got to do better with this. I'm not saying I'm perfect and I have time. I'm out there. And be honest with you, sometimes, and that's what happens a lot, is our priorities shift. We think that what we're doing right now, like me, for example, doing this podcast, this is more important right now than maybe what a family member is doing. I don't know. But there's certain things I have to do to get my work done. And as I watch myself and as I look at some things that I need to get done and some things that I want to get done, I have to make sure that I am grounded in what I'm doing. And it's starting to slow down just a little bit and just trying to figure out some things. I have so much, I'm not the only one who has so much going on. Maybe I have so many excuses. Well, I got to work. I got to do this. I got to produce this. I got to make this. I got a call coming in for London. I have so much going on, but I got to understand that that's not a really valid excuse of spending time with your family members. And I think that's what happens a lot. We want to hide behind excuses. In this podcast, like I said, it's not about making excuses. It's all about keeping ourselves accountable, keeping ourselves. If we make a fault, learn from it and move on. Recently, I've been studying about universal themes and people who overcome things and people who really they start their journey and they have obstacles and they learn from on these obstacles, and then as they get through these obstacles, they conquer something so great, and then the end of the story. We've all watched movies where the main character is struggling in the beginning and eventually figure it out, have some bumps in the road, and at the end they're the champion. One of my favorite stories, not favorite story, but one of the movies that we watch, and you may have time to watch this, is Rocky. He's an underdog. No one gives him a chance, but he makes it his priority to overcome certain things. But in that, if you look deep down inside in that movie of Rocky, it's all about his relationship with his wife coming up and his family members and working with them and trying to understand what's going on with certain members of your family. And I understand that, as we said, it's just 5 more minutes. I notice sometimes as I tuck my son in, and I want to spend 5 more minutes with him, and just cherish the time he is. And right now, I'm really cherishing the time that I get to spend with him. He's growing. I'm getting older. He's asking more questions, and I stretch out the time. I make time, and because I know that time's not going to be there forever, and I want him to don't ever think, well, Dad didn't have time for me. Dad didn't. He asked a lot of questions, and I don't want to be one of those parents that just shoo him aside and say, hey, you know what? I'm too busy right now. I don't have time for that. Sometimes when I'm taping the podcast or some other things I'm putting together, I have to make sure that when he comes up to my desk or whatever, I shut down my equipment, I stop what I'm doing, and then I address him. I don't want him to think that this computer or this podcast or is more important than what he's doing. And that's what happens a lot of times. We think that what we're doing, what career we're doing, what we're doing is more important. And to be honest with you, a lot of stuff that we're doing, it's important. I understand it is important, but having that family member, and I remember all the times that my parents have put into me, the time they have made for me, and things that they didn't probably want to do, but I wanted to do. I wanted to spend time with them. And my relationship with my mom and dad might be different from how you had your relationship with your parents, but I always want to hang out with them. I always want to do things with them. I want to do things with my friends, but for the most part, I really wanted to, spend time with them and learn things from them. And yeah, people will call you kind of names and, you're this and that and this and that. But it's nothing wrong with a strong relationship with a family member, a strong relationship in that they are guiding you some things that maybe didn't go right with their life so that you won't make these same mistakes again. And so that's what, as I watch myself and as I see myself develop and I see myself getting better and better, that's what I'm working on. That's the things that I'm going to try to make myself better with, is make sure that, just like, for example, I looked at my son's day camp schedule and it says 6/22, for example, he has a bike riding day. He has to ride his bike that day. He doesn't know how to ride his bike. He gets the concept of pedaling, but his balance is off, and just he's getting the concept of turning and whatnot, but he doesn't know how to balance it just yet. We've taken the training wheels off, and so he's got to gain his confidence, and I have to spend time with him. So for the next couple of weeks, my priority is to spend time with him so he can get past that. He can understand that, you know what, I did it. When I get out there, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be able to do certain things on that bicycle. I'm going to be proud of myself. And that's all we want him to do, is make sure that he is making constant progress and he is getting better in what he is doing. But a lot of times, as we look back at a lot of things in life, riding a bicycle may not be a priority for a lot of people, may not be a priority for some people, may not be a priority for me, but it is. Whatever he wants to do in life, whatever my wife and him and my family members want to do, that's my priority. It hasn't always been that way. And people always ask me, why did you get married later in life? Because, to be honest with you, I didn't want to give up that priority in my life. I thought I was the most important thing. I didn't want to share that number one thing. But now, as you get older, you mellow out, you realize that there's other things in life that you can do to still have you the number one priority, but there's other people that are more, just, for example, they mean a lot more and they need you to do certain things. And it's okay. It is okay. So as we come in and as we finish up our podcast today, I want to thank everyone who's listening to the podcast. Thank you for sticking with us as we continue to get more listeners to the podcast. Thank you. And hopefully we continue pushing. And as we realize and as you look back at our moral of our story today, make sure that you change your priorities and make sure that you continue pushing yourself to greatness. I'll be honest with you, sometimes changing your priorities is not easy. It's not easy for everyone, but it's just something that you have to do. You can do it. Just put your mind to it, and we will see you on the next one. Okay? Bye-bye.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.